Once again, thank you for each and every one of you for participating in today's book reading event. Although some of the members are still on the way, but due to our time constraint, let's start the session, all right? Okay, so today's book, this is a classic. It's written and published in the year 1931. So during the Great Depression era, and it is written by a very famous English author called Virginia Woolf. This is the lady that you see. She is the author. This book was written and published by her own publication house. Why that happened is because this book has a very different narrative. Now, as book readers, you guys might be aware of genres, right? Different genres of books. So, can I hear some genres that you know of when it comes to books? How are the books categorized? What are the genres? Horror, science fiction. Come on, guys, you know. Mystery. And you have poetry. You have play, and then you have a comedy. When it comes to poetry, it is even further categorized as comedy. Some of them are tragedy. And then you have fiction. In fiction, it is more categorized as a mystery, a thriller, a romantic, a horror. And then you have non-fiction, which is autobiography or journal or self-help. So likewise, the books are categorized. But this book cannot fall into a specific category. The author has approached a very different genre. She calls it a play poem, but it's neither falls under the poem category nor it falls under the play category. When you say a play, what do you imagine? When you say that you're witnessing a play, how would a play be? Dialogues? Characters interacting with each other, acting it out, right? But this particular book is all about monologues. So monologue is a self-dialogue, something that you talk to yourself. And these monologues are not even spoken out loud. These monologues are spoken by the consciousness of the characters. So in this book, we are introduced to a conscious narrative. That's the new form of writing this author introduced. So this was very revolutionary during the time of 1931, because up until that time, there were no authors that actually approached this type of writing. Conscious narrative. The author is talking about a person's mind language. So this book actually turned the language of modern literature, and it became so influential where in the year 2015, when BBC conducted a poll, this book was chosen as, this placed 16th position in the greatest books ever written in the British history. And when you talk about the author, Virginia Woolf, she is young. She is born in 1882. So she was a pretty young author. She is from an aristocrat family, which means all of their family members are very well educated, high affluent people. And she wrote this book during the time period of Great Depression leading up to the Second World War. So let me dive a little bit about the book, but I will give you a kind of like a disclaimer. There is no plot twist in this story. Unlike a traditional book, there is no beginning or the end of a story. There is no linear storytelling. The book introduces us to 6 characters, 6 friends. And we will be seeing one day of their lifetime, starting from their childhood till their old age. But we will only see one day, a specific event. That's what the book is all about, right? So the author starts talking about a beautiful sunrise. Okay, the author says there is no difference between the sky and the sea because both are dark. It's as if it's covered by a grey blanket. Slowly, a small light creeps up. Like imagine, author is asking us to imagine, like if a lady is to pull a lamp from an armchair. So let's think that this is the sky and this is the sea. This is the horizon. So when the sun creeps up, slowly, that grey blanket is being taken off. You will be able to see the divide between the sky and the sea, right? And then during the initial time before the sun comes up fully, the sky will show you different colors. That will be a slab of yellow, slab of orange. Sometimes it's you can see the dark specks of the sky. You can see the even more darker shade of the sea. And this is all observed by 6 children. 3 boys, 3 girls. The boys are Bernard, Louis, Neville, and the girls are Ginny and oh Lord, I forgot her name. You know? Yes. Rhoda and Susan. Ginny, Rhoda and Susan. Right? So 6 characters. Bernard, Neville, Louis, Ginny, Rhoda and Susan. So all of them are actually looking at this site where the sun is rising. Okay? And each one of them is having a monologue on their own. They are not talking to each other. These are their thought voices. That's what it's called, a narrative, conscious narrative. So one person, Bernard is saying, I see a ring. When he looks at the sky, the sun, he says, I see a ring. Susan is saying, I see a slab of yellow. Ginny is saying, I see tassels. It's like the reflection of the sun towards the sea. She looks at it like an earring, like a tassel. And Rhoda says, I can hear the chirp of birds. And Louis is saying, I can hear like a beast chained and dragging. The sound of a beast chained but dragging because of the sound of the waves. So each one of them is having their own set of interpretation about the sight that they see in that early morning. So this shows that, it shows us as the readers that all these 6 different characters are different on their own, right? Because they don't see the same thing. And it talks about a morning time period before they got into their usual classroom. They have been given time for them to have a play. And what is happening? Louis, who is a very methodical order person, who is very proud of his neat clothes and his belt, he is hiding. He wants to be hidden because he don't want to mix up with the other children and then get himself dirty. So he's hiding inside the bush, expecting that, oh, I'm going to be hidden, I'm going to be camouflaged. And who sees Louis? Ginny sees Louis. Ginny thinks, oh, he's hiding, we are playing hide and seek. So she runs towards him and she grabs hold of him and, as if, I found you, and gives him a kiss. Who sees this is Susan. Susan is heartbroken because all she could see was Ginny kissing Louis. And Ginny is so small where she couldn't even understand, am I capable of realizing love and hate? Can I love? Can I hate? But she don't know how to express that. So what she does is she clings on her handkerchiefs and she runs inside the forest, saying that I wanted to be out of everybody's eyes. Even if I'm crying, I don't want anybody to see me cry. Who sees this is Bernard. Bernard is a person who is full of ideas, he's full of stories, he's always very creative. He creates some story out of the situation. So Bernard thinks, oh, it's a damsel in distress. I need to go behind her and save her. Or else she will get caught in some, she will go inside a place where there will be bad people and Susan will be in trouble. So I'm going to go behind her and save her. And then Neville sees Bernard running. And Neville is like, oh Lord, I gave him my knife. We were supposed to be building a boat together. But he took my knife and ran behind Susan. Useless. And then Rhoda, what she does is she is picking up the white petals only that is already fallen from flowers, and she places them in a water basin, and she is just moving the basin up and down, pretending that all the flower petals are fleets of ship going from one shore to another. And all the petals, if it is colliding with each other, she thinks that this is a battle. And the single petal that it is traveling all by itself to reach the shore, she thinks that that is my ship. I am alone. My ship is reaching from one shore to another. So now this is the kind of the mourning that these children have, these different characters of attributes of these children. And in this scenario, what is really eye-opening is that the character of Rhoda. Why? Because when the teacher writes on the board 6 plus 7 plus 8, and she leaves a blank. All the other children, some very fast and some not too fast, but they were able to understand what the teacher wrote. 6 plus 7 plus 8 blank. But for Rhoda, all she saw was numbers and signs. She didn't understand what did this mean. What am I supposed to do? And she kept staring at it and staring at it, trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do? What is this numbers represent? What is it that I don't understand, which my friends, my other guys, they understood? They wrote their answers, gave it to the teacher. Teacher waited for some time for Rhoda to finish, but since she didn't finish, she also got up and went. And Rhoda is here standing and staring at the blackboard, trying to figure out what's wrong. So this is the chapter that ends the childhood of these 6 characters. So cut to the next scene. The story, the author starts by talking about the sunrise again. But this time, the sun is up, but it is not right at the middle. It's somewhere in the middle. It's like around 9 or 10 o'clock, usually how the sun will be positioned. So she's talking about how the sky is, how the sea is, very beautifully. She's describing that particular scene. And then she's talking about the adolescence time period of these 6 children. So now from children, they have become adolescents, preteens or teenagers. Now the chapter goes to a specific day in their life where they are in their school, boarding school, the very first day of their boarding school. So girls are separated in a boarding school, boys are separated in the boarding school. So now they are not together. They are divided into 2 pairs. The girls, they hated the school. They didn't like it at all. They just wanted to get it over with, and they wanted to get on with their life. Susan was the most affected person because Susan really didn't like the grayness of the building, the huge arches, the lack of greenery, the smell of the city. She didn't actually like. She was clinging onto a handkerchief, and she was reminiscing the time period where she was spending at home in her farm with her father and her animals, her pets, pets that she has actually given responsibility to her father to take care of. And she feels like it was my responsibility, but because I had to come over here to take education, I have left it, I have abandoned them. So she is longing for that time period where she will finish the chapter of the school and go back to the warm, embraceful hands of her father and her country life. Now, okay, so the story shifts to Ginny. Now, Ginny is a person, when he looks at the teachers and the paintings, she is imagining, that is a beautiful dress. Look at the accessories that this painting is wearing or the teacher is wearing. That's a nice color, And then she is daydreaming, what if it is me who is wearing a similar dress? How am I going to look? I need to look beautiful. I need to make a grand entrance where everybody's eyes should be on me. I need to present myself very beautiful because I know that I am beautiful. So that confidence is what Ginny took in during that school time period. And she became very famous because she's so jovial. The way she ties her hair and the ribbon, these are all things that is different. And she is very chirpy and smiling. So everybody in the school or in the hallway, whoever who meets Ginny, they all greeted her. So she was like a social butterfly in the school. And for Rhoda, it was different. Rhoda was initially academically finding things difficult, right? So Rhoda decided that she's going to work so hard on herself where she's going to complete this school and carry it as a badge of honor. But by focusing purely on academics, what Rhoda failed to do was to develop her social skills. So she was more inclined towards the academics, but she lacked her social skills. So she was not very comfortable with people around. She didn't understand actually to interact with people. She was more focused on her academics, and when people started talking to her, she felt very uncomfortable. She didn't know how to respond back to them. So what she actually did was she mimicked or she copied what Rhoda does or Susan does, and sometimes she gets caught, for them, she gets caught while she's mimicking them, she gets caught and they get annoyed, like, why are you repeating what I'm doing? But this is the type of way Rhoda knows how to communicate. And then later on she realized that she is happy in solidarity. She's happy being secluded. She's happy in her books, in her academics, all by herself. She doesn't want it to mingle around. So her character develops in that way. On the other side, in the school of boys, all three of them enjoy the school. Bernard realizes that he is very good in storytelling. So he has a very vivid imagination. And then even when he looks at the headmaster, he admires the headmaster, but not for the headmaster as who he is. The language that is spoken, the perfection of the sentences of the headmaster, he adores that. So, and he realizes that every time his mind also sometimes makes up a perfect sentence. Okay, so what he does is he carries a small book in his hand. So every time a perfect phrase comes into his mind, he quickly writes it down because he wanted to become an author. On the other side, you have Neville, who is also fascinated by the headmaster, by the authoritative figures in his school, not for anything else. He only observes them that these people are so powerful. There are so many people who comes and talks to them and takes advice from them because of their authoritative figure. It's not only within the walls of the school, even beyond the school, these people are having a type of influence. So if you wanted to be a successful person in the world, you need to become an authoritative figure. And that is not only enough, you need to become an academic. And one way for you to get in the spotlight is to brush up on the love for languages. Neville loved different type of languages. So he loved the libraries, to spend his time head in different types of books, especially Spanish. He loved his Latin. Right? And on the other side, you have Louis. Now, Louis is the only outsider in this 6 friends gang. Why? Because Louis has an Australian accent. He's born in Australia, even though he's born to an English gentleman, his father is a banker, he has an Australian accent. So among all the Britishers, the Englishman, when he speaks, he is different. So he gets picked on, he gets bullied in the school. And Louis doesn't want to be on the spotlight for anything other than perfection. Louis wanted to portray himself as a person, I am perfect, I don't want it to be in the bad spotlight. One scenario that Louis thinks, his conscious mind is talking about, reminiscing, is during a time period where in a Christmas, his father actually forgot to send him a Christmas present. So when all the Christmas presents were distributed, it was Louis who was only standing without a Christmas present in the hand, and the warden got so sorry, he said, oh, this boy does not have a Christmas present. And he goes and gives him a Christmas present. But Louis throws a huge tantrum because he don't want to be in the spotlight in a bad way. He wanted to attain success and be on the right spotlight, successful spotlight. So now these are the different types of characters that these, the 6 children, they are developing their characters. And then the story shifts to their young adulthood during their 20s. And during their 20s is described as the sun reaching the top. It's the 12 o'clock sun in the afternoon, mid-afternoon sun. So that is the peak time period, their young adulthood time period. Now, this particular day, it talks about all these friends gathered together to celebrate one of their friends. Now, this character's name is Percival. But the author did not give us any monologue for this Percival. All whatever that is happening right now, these are conscious monologues of these 6 characters. But for the Percival character, the author did not actually give a monologue. So we see who the Percival is from the perspective of each of the 6 characters. Neither the author is talking to us about the events that led them to meet this person. How did these guys each other met Percival? How did he become a common friend to all 6 of them? We don't know. But this Percival person, this character is very influential in all their lives, each one in their own special ways. Now for Louis, he looked at Percival as a person of perfection. He liked the way Percival moved his hand when he spoke. For Bernard, he likes the way that Percival is good in his literature. All right? And for Neville, he liked Percival's looks. He was fascinated by Percival's looks, which made him fall in love with Percival. But Percival didn't actually reciprocate his feelings. And for the girls, for Rhoda, she did not understand whether that affection towards Percival, is it a brotherly bond, or is it a love, or is it a kind of a feeling? What do I feel on this person? She actually didn't understand. She started exploring, because there is this one man who everybody likes, but why am I having contradicting feeling towards him? So something really wrong in my mind when I am looking at people. She started contemplating her life. And for Susan, Percival is a perfect man. So if I marry someone, I should find someone as perfect as Percival. And for Ginny, she really liked Percival, but he actually also didn't reciprocate the feeling. So she is like, I'm not going to get my heart broken. I'm going to go find people up until I satisfy myself that this is the right partner. So all these 6 people are somewhat influenced by this Percival character. And why are they gathered? Is because Percival is right now deployed to India to serve for the Queen. This is during the World War II time period, right? So that chapter ends there. And then now the author brings to another day of these characters. Now this time the sun is neither set nor in the middle. We are talking about a 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock sun. And this time, it's the mid-age. All these characters are in their mid-age time period. And this time they are gathering again, but for the, it's like a memorial. It's like a mourning session. And who are they mourning? Any guess? Percival. They are mourning the death of Percival. And they go through every stage of grief in their life. And if you look into these characters, Bernard is right now a very successful author, married with 2 children. Okay, Louis is a very successful businessman, climbing the corporate ladder. Every time he achieves something, he is like not satisfied. I wanted to achieve more. So he's always climbing the corporate ladder. And then Neville, he is a very powerful politician. He became a politician. But Neville actually is trying to figure out who is the right partner for him. So he has a trail of lovers left behind. But when it comes to his professional life, he's very successful because he's a powerful politician. And then Susan, she is now married in a countryside. She is a mother. She has children. And Ginny, she is a socialite. She's a social butterfly, right? That's how her character was formed, isn't it? So she became a socialite. She became a very influential person. She goes to big parties and meet people, but never settled for one person. And then you have Rhoda. She is a teacher. She's a teacher. But she is still enjoying her secluded life. She kind of feels like she doesn't have a face. She's a no-face person among all these faces. This is what Rhoda felt whenever she gathers around. And they go through these stages of grief. First it was anger, first it was shock, then it is anger, denial, and then after that they started contemplating their own life. What was the life choices that they took? Was it actually leading them to be happy, or what are they doing wrong in their life? And this is in the mid-age. You call this a midlife crisis at times. You start contemplating things that's happening in your life. Did I do everything right? And this is happening to these characters. An ultimate stage of grief is their acceptance of their own mortality. They realize that they are getting towards the end of their life. Death is lingering around, whether they like it or not. So they go through all these stages of the grief of this Percival character. So this particular Percival character is very important in the formation of the characters of our 6 friends, and at the same time acceptance of their life also. This Percival was very important. The character where it didn't even have a monologue. We don't even know whether the Percival character, is it really a true character or not? Is it something that it is made up in the minds of these children? Because we are talking about conscious narrativeness. These children these adults, these characters are not actually talking. They are not having a conversation with each other. It's an internal conversation they are having within themselves. And now the final chapter. The final chapter is the sun is set. You know, the beginning of the story where the author started, where the world is dark, there is no difference between the sky and the sea, and it is all covered in grey blanket. Now the sun is set. So the author covers a full 360 degrees. And now this time, the monologue is only done by one person, Bernard. Bernard is talking as if he's talking to another friend whom we don't know the name. It's not the other 5 friends of Bernard. It's as if he's talking to someone else. And he talks about what really became of all the other friends. Now all of them are old, very old. They are older people. So what unfolds is that he says, Susan, even though she is happy, she actually lived the life according to what she wanted to, a country life with family and with children, but she was not always happy because she didn't live for herself. She was always in service of someone. So it's not a typical feel-good book, right? It's a different mood of a book. And when I actually read this book, it was about 180 or 200 pages maximum. So I thought, okay, it's a small read. You can finish it overnight. No. This was like Christopher Nolan's movie. Have you all watched the Christopher Nolan's movie? Tenet, you know, even the latest, Oppenheimer also. It's a slow burning drama. Sometimes you need to keep revisiting, watching that movie again and again for you to actually interpret and understand what the author is saying. It took me back to our school days where we had to interpret what the author said in our literature period. Have you all done that during your literature period? So that is the context, what the author has written, and then our literature teacher will tell us to interpret it. So that is where our implicit understanding of that passage comes in, right? So when you read this book, it takes us back to that. It challenges us as a reader. So this is not a conventional type book. It's a very different book. That is why I told you that this book actually changed the language of modern literature. After Virginia Woolf, a lot of other authors tried a different variation of conscious narrativeness. One of the authors who successfully did this is Sidney Sheldon. Conscious narrative. I don't remember the title of the book, but there's a book about 3 split personalities trying to interact, of a same character, 3 split personalities who is trying to interact with each other, but they are looking at 3 different persons, but the plot twist is that these are 3 different personalities of a single person. I forgot the mood. Tell me your dreams or something like that. I forgot the book, sorry. So such type of book is also called conscious narrative. Okay, and this book, all these characters, be it Bernard, be it Louis or Rhoda or Ginny or Susan, whoever. Now these are all characters that people say these are derived from the friends of Virginia herself. Okay. Can we take to a slide where I wanted to show, next slide please, next again. One more slide? No, okay. Right. Doesn't matter. So there were 6 characters, 5 of her friends and family members from whom she picked 1 or 2 attributions of these characters. But for Rhoda, Virginia says Rhoda is herself. She is Rhoda. And unfortunately, Virginia Woolf also ended her life similar to how Rhoda ended her life in the book. So it is a tragedy. And these books are kind of like, these characters may not be 6 different characters. It may be fragments of Virginia herself. Now, she is a socialite. She was a very influential person. She was politically connected. At the same time, she was an author. She was a dreamer. She wanted to have a family, right? These. So this was supposedly Bernard. This is Louis. This is Neville. This is Ginny, Susan. That's Rhoda. These are real life people. But actually, are they the real characters, or are these characters fragments from Virginia Woolf? So we believe that these are fragments of the author, her mind itself. So her consciousness, different types of feelings that she had during her lifetime is what she is depicting in her book. And this is the most experimental book written ever by the author, because the narration is as such. Initially, on the first time I read it, I really didn't understand anything because it was so difficult. Then had to read it and reread it and reread it again. And it is such a book where if you open a passage, you can just start from there because it is not interconnected to the previous chapters at all. You can just start fresh, see the perspective from that particular character, right? So that's the book. And I would like to request you all to read this book. Waves is an amazing book. And I want you all to explore this author because her style, the conscious narrative, is really new. So as readers, we are all comfortable in our own genres. We like either self-help books or fiction, and in fiction also are different types of variations. This book actually tests our skills as readers and tests our patience, because as I said, you need to keep reading this book at least 2, 3, 4 times for you to really understand the context. Now this is my interpretation with what I understood, my mindset. It's different. But when you read it, you might find a completely different narrative, because some of the characters might come and talk to you. You might be able to connect with them. So your interpretation might be different, right? So it's a small read, but again, since it's a repetitive read, so I'm just going to give you guys that information, and I would like to request all of you to read, all right? So I would like to, ask your opinion. Have you all read this book? What was your, thought about this book? Can I, Fulel? I think she has read the book.
Would you like to share something?
That's fine. Yes, I have read the book, The Waves, and personally I like the style. It's a very unique style, and as you said, it's a very experimental style. And I believe it was the first of its kind at the time. The stream of consciousness, in my opinion, how I interpreted the story, is that all of the fragments actually are, like you said, parts of Virginia Woolf, because throughout the book, at certain instances, we find that all of the characters' monologues, they merge into one or into one sentence. And I think this further is evidence of the fact how all the characters are simply fragments. And yeah, that's all.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Anyone else has come across Virginia Woolf, ma'am? No, okay. Have you all read any other books that has these different styles? No, like a conscious narrative or a very different narrative? Anybody wants to share? Okay. What did you guys think about the book? I know all of you were very quiet. I could see not that usual, chirpiness on a book reading session. You were very quiet. What did you feel? Can you all share? Afshan? Fulel?
So first of all, I missed the starting part, the childhood, but I think this, the character, I forgot the name.
Virginia Woolf?
Virginia, I like this character.
She's the author of the book.
That's I just want to say.
Right. Anyone from the beginning? Rahul? I'm like this teacher, pulling out children one by one. Yes. Your opinion, please.
Yeah, so it was a good lesson for me. I want to read the book as well. I have been influenced. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Fred.
I recently read a novel, Tomb of Sand. This book has got Booker Prize for, I think, for year 2022. And similarly, this book has a very different kind of narrative, conscious narrative, we can say, that I think the writer is playing the role of the sister, who is visualizing everything in front of readers. And, she's creating a scene, and while interpreting the scene, she will take us to Pakistan, then Harappa culture, then she moved to Australia, then sometimes she came to Mahabharat. And this book really tests our skills in the beginning as a reader, and after some time you get indulged in the book, and it's difficult to leave the book incomplete. And yeah, a fantastic book. Like this book brings, I think it's the first time when an Indian author got a Booker Prize. And basically the book was written in Hindi, and then it got translated, and finally it brings a Booker to India.
Okay. What's the name of the book again?
Tomb of Sand. Tomb.
Box?
Tomb of Sand.
Tomb of Sand. Okay.
Yeah, the Gitanjali Shri has written this.
Okay, Tomb of Sand. All right. Any other book recommendation, guys? Yeah, Fulel?
Yes, just give me 1 minute.
I think the descriptive style of The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath is quite similar to Virginia Woolf's style of descriptive writing in the visual sense. Of course, in The Bell Jar, or any of the other Sylvia Plath's writing, it's not in the stream of consciousness or that conscious writing. I just thought the visual descriptions were quite similar in that sense, as well as they're both quite engaging, and
Okay.
I believe they're both.
What was the name again, dear?
The Bell Jar.
The
by
Bell
S-
Jar, okay.
Yes, by Sylvia Plath.
Okay, The Bell Jar.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have two such recommendations of different books for you guys to explore, different types of narratives. So let's also try and expand, our reading patterns. go back to the old ways where, you know, these type of books will actually expand our knowledge as readers. So it takes us back to these old Oliver Twist days, Shakespeare days, Pride and Prejudice days, where we have to interpret. But this type of narratives, it even tests us more. It tests you as a reader, it tests your understanding, more or less it tests you your patience, because sometimes you will feel the book is so overwhelming and it's all over. You can't come to a specific understanding. Usually the stories are, there is a beginning, there is a plot, there is an ending, but here there is nothing as such. There's no linear line of storytelling. And these books are really good. It will really expand your knowledge as readers. So having said that, I would like to thank each and every one of you again for spending your evening with us. All right. So hopefully, inshallah, we will be meeting you guys soon. Please watch out for the space of Mohammed bin Rashid Library's social media platforms for such, you know, book discussion and book reading engaging events. All right. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Right.